Okay, this question asks you how many grams of sodium are in 250.0 milliliters of 1.5 molar aqueous solution of sodium sulfate. Now, it seems pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of words, but there actually is quite a bit of planning that has to do, you have to do from a conceptual standpoint. If you're doing things in order, then you haven't done a lot of conceptual planning in the last chapter or so. But now we're back to it with with molarity. We can definitely use molarity as a per expression, and that's what we're going to do here. So let's do our planning the same way that we've done before. Let's start off with what we're given. We're given the 250.0 milliliters of sodium sulfate solution, and we're also given the molarity of the solution as well. So we're asked for the grams of sodium hydroxide. Now, how do we sort out the basic plan? In other words, which unit in one do I start my plan with? I've got two things here. I'm given the molarity and I'm given milliliters of sodium sulfate solution. Well, if you remember a quick little mnemonic, a quick little rule, that we never start a conceptual plan with a per expression. Molarity is moles per liter, then that leads us to believe that we should start with milliliters of sodium sulfate solution, and that'll get us going. So the basic plan is to get us from milliliters of sodium sulfate solution to grams of sodium. So if I kind of expand it out, starting here and ending up there, I got to fill in the middle, and it's going to take several steps to do that. Now, one of the things about conceptual planning is that you should be getting to the point where you can kind of do it from either direction. You can kind of fill it in from the front, go from milliliters to what's next, or you can even go backwards. And one thing that I tell students is that we can always convert grams to moles. And so if I want moles of sodium, then grams of sodium, then I can always have converted that from moles of sodium. Now, sodium isn't the operating compound in this problem, sodium sulfate is. But if I know how many moles of sodium sulfate that I have, then I know how many moles of sodium are there because I can do that via the relationship in the formula of sodium sulfate. 2 moles of sodium is in 1 mole of sodium sulfate. So the next part is the new piece with this molarity, right? So moles of sodium sulfate can be figured out from liters of sodium sulfate solution. And that's what we gave you. We gave you the molarity, and that's what you'll use in that step to go from liters of the solution to moles of the solute. Now, I gave you the solution in terms of milliliters. So of course you can convert milliliters of solution directly to liters through some metric conversions that we learned very early on. So let's put it together. This first, as I said, this is the first, one of the first conversions that we learned. And these other two conversions we learned earlier on in the semester as well. The only thing that's new is that spot in the middle with molarity. So putting it together and working it out, 250.0 milliliters of the sodium sulfate solution times 1 milliliter per 10 to the minus 3 liters times 1 liter of solution is 1.5 moles of sodium sulfate. That's the molarity. That's how we use this. Then I can use the formula to say that 1 mole of sodium sulfate is 2 moles of sodium, and then go to the molar mass on the periodic table to say 1 mole of sodium is 22.90 grams of sodium. The rest I put into my calculator, and I get 17.24 grams of sodium, and that's the final answer. Okay,